Costa Chica es una región, sí, propiamente en la que hay una interacción con otras culturas, pero que de alguna manera es donde se concentra una población con características específicas.
La mayoría de la población de la Costa Chica era negra. Había muy pocos indígenas y los que estaban más replegados a las montañas, y todas estas zonas de Jamiltepec, las cercanas a la costa, eran de negros, de mulatos, de afrodescendientes. Los africanos y los afrodescendientes fueron la segunda.
Keep in mind, we dodge all hijacks at all costs over here. We dodge all hijacks at all costs over here. We're gonna get that back. For those in the back of the classroom, for little homie in the corner.
Centra una población con características específicas.
La mayoría de la población de la Costa Chica era negra. Había muy pocos indígenas y los que estaban más replegados a las montañas, y todas estas zonas de Jamiltepec, las cercanas a la costa, eran de negros, de mulatos, de afrodescendientes. Los africanos y los afrodescendientes fueron la segunda población más importante en toda la Nueva España, en todo México. Hubo más africanos y afrodescendientes que europeos.
Soy el negro de la costa, de Guerrero y de Oaxaca. Ay, no se vayan a espantar, porque sé cómo se mata, y en el agua se la saca. Afromexicano significa que eres descendiente de africanos.
And we just want to say for the record, alright, we know that most of the mainstream out of Africa theory has to be crammed into the minds of the programming and just the all out verbiage of so-called original people. But we're putting the pieces together, and we're overstanding that we are the people of the earth. Alright, we are the salt of the earth, and that's from, this end all the way to Africa and everywhere else. But to have the dark skin trait, to be, one rich in what they want to refer to as melanin, does not make you one that's from Africa. Alright, so always keep that in mind. And we're gonna go ahead and carry on something else. Want to make a quick highlight. Alright, a quick highlight. So let's go ahead and catch on to this highlight. Peace to the real ones. Peace to the tribe. And peace to the tribes. Welcome to the first presentation that we'll have to offer on this Patreon. And much ado to everybody that signed up and surfing the wave. Lego. Okay, so we're looking at a quick tab of Tabasco, and that's coming out of Tabasco, Mexico. And I want to bring you down real quick to the pre-Columbian period. All right. Excuse me. Now it says that the origin name of Tabasco is not definitely known, with a number of theories debated among linguists. It says the name appears in the chronicles of Bernal Diaz del Castillo during the conquest era, who mentions a river named after the local ruler Tascub. Other possible etymology is that it comes from a Mayan phrase meaning our Lord of 8 tigers. Another states that it is from the Nahuatl or the Nahuatl, with two possible derivations, one meaning place that has a lord and the other place where the land is moist. The state seal is that which was granted in 1598 to the town of Villahermosa, then called San Juan Bautista, by Philip II of Spain. This is one of the oldest coats of arms in the Americas. Alright. It says the Olmec civilization dominated much of what is now Tabasco 3,000 years ago, reaching a height around 800 BC. It was the oldest Mesoamerican culture, dominating what is now the states of Mexico, Guerrero, Oaxaca, Veracruz, and Tabasco, as well as parts of Central America, and is considered the founding culture for all Mesoamerica. Alright, and when we got that feature in the beginning, which we're about to go back to for the quick reference, they're talking about the people of Oaxaca as Afro-Mexicans. Okay, so they're saying that they have been there. And if that is the case, then we're also jumping right back into the Olmec civilization, what happens to be in the same area. And when you go ahead and take a look in the statistics of these so-called Afro-Mexicans, they happen to be bunched up within these areas. All right. So, I'll leave these here for y'all to go ahead and jump into and explore as you surf the wave. But keep in mind that we're just, getting it like it's the first time. And with that being said, we're highlighting the fact that these Afro-Mexicans are the original Olmecs as far as ancestry. So we're going to go ahead and touch on that again. And we know how it can be for those hearing this and it's falling upon your ears, and it might leave a salty taste in the mouth. But the facts are the facts. All right, and we're not here to ease and hold hands with your feelings. So let's get this back one more time as we continue to do our thing. Peace to the family. This is the Patreon exclusive. Ahab.
Con características específicas.
La mayoría de la población de la Costa Chica era negra. Había muy pocos indígenas y los que estaban más replegados a las montañas, y todas estas zonas de Jamiltepec, las cercanas a la costa, eran de negros, de mulatos, de afrodescendientes. Los africanos y los afrodescendientes fueron la segunda población más importante en toda la Nueva España, en todo México. Hubo más africanos y afrodescendientes que europeos.
Soy el negro de la costa, de Guerrero y de Oaxaca. Ay, no se vayan a espantar, porque sé cómo se mata, y en el agua se la saca.
If you're not a morning person, then you probably love living on the moon or out in space. The whole lack of oxygen thing aside, the round-the-clock night sky sounds pretty tempting. But that got me to wondering, why is there so much light on Earth, but almost none once you leave our planet? You might think it's light during the day and dark at night, because the Earth spins on its axis, and the sun illuminates either hemisphere. Well, that's part of the reason, but it's more complicated than that. I mean, our star shines on the moon too, but the sky above it is always black. It comes down to the unique atmosphere surrounding our Earth. It's full of dust, dirt, gases, and water droplets, which all act like tiny mirrors and reflect the sunlight. When sunlight bumps into these small particles, it diffuses and creates different colors. That's why we see a blue sky and all those spectacular shades during sunrise and sunset. It's a whole different story elsewhere. If you find yourself on the moon, where there's no atmosphere, the sky will be black. You'll be able to see stars even when the sun is blazing on the surface during the lunar day. The same is true of space. It's filled with lots of different gases, but it has no atmosphere with molecules to reflect sunlight. In other words, space is empty.
Now keep in mind, they're going to refer to this black emptiness as so-called space. And keep in mind that when they talk about so-called space, they're going to be referring to it as a so-called black emptiness. Alright, but the term that I want you to focus on is this black. Alright? Because if they're going to personify you as so-called black people, alright, of the Americas, I need you to tap into what else they consider to be black. And let's follow their stream, but not get lost in their hijack. So peace to the real ones. You're right here with Natural by Law on the exclusive Pateron presentation. Peace.
That's why even when the sun is shining, space looks like a black void. If one day the Earth's atmosphere disappeared, it'd be just as dark as it is in space or on the moon. That one's clear. But the sun isn't the only star or source of light in the universe. So, why don't other stars shine with blazing light at night? Well, you're not the first one to wonder about that. An astronomer named Thomas Digges researched this question back in the 16th century. Digges was sure that the universe had no end and the stars in it could not be counted. He tried to answer why all these innumerable stars don't blind us with glaring light, but failed. His questions were just way far ahead of his time, and he didn't have the tools to find the answer. In the early 19th century, German astronomer Wilhelm Olbers suggested that the reason the sky is dark at night was a dusty veil that hid most of the stars from us. This idea also proved to be wrong later. The stars shed not only light, but huge energy that could heat dust particles so that they would start shining themselves. In that case, the night sky would still be light because of shining dust. And yet, the sky gets dark every evening after sunset. What's bad about this theory then? Digges, Olbers, and other astronomers of the past believed the universe was infinite, but modern astronomy knows better. The number of stars, as countless as they may seem, is simply not enough to illuminate the sky at night. The sky gets dark because the stars, just as the universe itself, don't last forever. They are finite. You see, the universe has its own borders and isn't as ancient as scientists used to think. Sure, just shy of 14 billion years is no whippersnapper to us humans, but it's still surprisingly young in cosmic terms. And it's not much for all of the light from the most distant stars to be able to...
Now, how would these guys understand or understand or even understand what's old and what's young in the cosmos when they themselves are of a young or new creation? Okay, when we're talking about the physical manifestation of a body into this etherical plane, they're brand new. Okay, as a species, they are brand new. They are the newest addition. So how can they tell you what's fairly new, what's fairly old? And furthermore, if they're trying to say, okay, based off what they're finding out, you know, the so-called stars aren't as ancient as ones would think, what is that saying about you? What connection does that have with you as a so-called black person? So keep these things in mind as we check out this visual like we always do. Peace.
To reach the Earth. In other words, thanks to our fancy, powerful telescopes, we now know that it takes light billions of years to get to us from the farthest stars. This means when we look at the sky, we glance into a very distant past. Modern telescopes can show us that the light started its journey to the Earth about 10 billion years ago. The more powerful telescopes get, the further back in time we can see. One day, we'll be able to see something that existed before stars appeared. Probably.
So they think they have the capability of looking into the past when they look into the sky, because apparently what's in the sky has already happened already. All right. So I want that to, marinate in your thoughts as, we develop this presentation much further. But, how does this correlate to you, and how do you match up with this connection? Because you are also referred to as the ancient one, the ancient Ontokton. So how does this refer to you? All right. Peace, peace.
By studying the dark gaps between them. But more on that here in a sec. Okay, stars don't illuminate our night sky all that much because they're really old. Even as we look up at them, and they're unimaginably far away. If that's the case, then why don't less distant stars shine as bright as the sun? There should be thousands of stars much closer than those on the outskirts of the universe. Yeah, sure, there are plenty. Let's take a look at our closest space neighbor, Proxima Centauri, as an example. It's practically in our backyard, just over 4 light years away from us. But we can't even see it in the sky without a telescope. The thing is, it's 7 times smaller than our sun, and it gives off only a fraction of 1% of the sun's brightness. And our close neighbor, just 4 light years down the road, is still pretty far away, about 25 trillion miles. For comparison, our own big bright sun is a mere 93 million miles from Earth. So our star is much bigger and closer. Other stars might be brighter than the sun, but they're much farther from us too. But don't all those distant stars get at least some noticeable light on this planet? Well, I'll put it this way. It'd be like switching on a ton of tiny halogen light bulbs. They're not as bright as one big LED bulb, but they do give off part of its light. So, yeah, they give us a little bit of something, but it's barely noticeable. Remember, space might be empty compared to the Earth's atmosphere, but there are a lot of gases out there. They move around, form clouds, and serve as a sort of veil hiding most of the light in the Milky Way. That's why we can't see everything that's going on in our galaxy. We need special equipment for that. But it turns out Olbers was sort of right, only the curtain that covers the light is made of gas and not dust. Where the Big Bang comes into play. The theory states that the universe was born in a Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. Since that time, everything has been moving away from the point where it all began. That is, the universe is expanding, and objects within it are getting farther from each other with time. Sources of light also move away and spread out, which means space is getting darker, and the number of black areas is growing. They move at their own speed for billions of years, and our telescopes and satellites, fancy as they may be, can't notice or track this movement. How do we know these black areas exist at all if astronomers can't see them? To simplify that for sake of time, they study how visible objects behave, how celestial bodies move along an elliptical orbit around stars or have gravity. This can only be explained with the presence of an unknown space object or group of objects. Astronomers think that most of the matter in the universe is invisible, and it looks like black emptiness to the human eye. But how does it look through a telescope? Ooh, all that blackness lights up in a wondrous rainbow of colors. We can't see it because our sight is limited to the visible light spectrum. But if you remember the electromagnetic spectrum from back at school, you'll know that visible light is just a tiny sliver of all those wavelengths and frequencies. There's radio, microwave, infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma rays. They're beyond the visible spectrum, but all of them exist in space and can be registered by modern telescopes. And what they show us are seemingly dark or invisible nebulae, lit up with every color you can imagine. Red, blue, purple, yellow, orange, the whole color wheel, depending on which gases make them up. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll have special glasses that let us see all the colors of space just from looking up at the night sky. Hey, if you learned something new today, then give the video a like and share it with a friend.
So just keep in mind, this puts us right back into the first part, or part one of, the series of these presentations. We're gonna go ahead and give you the link at the bottom of the description if possible. But yeah, we're talking about part 1 all over again. Okay, so we just connected back with some things that we touched months ago, and it's always a connecting wheel or a connecting cycle when it comes to this. So remember the electromagnetic spectrum, remember the colors. Keep in mind how the so-called blackness is what produces all of these colors. And we're going to continue to jump into this. All right. So peace to the real ones. Ahab, especially to you. All right. So here we have a little diagram. And what we're looking at is the ether man. The man of ether. Or the womb man. We're just talking about the body, the ether body, the etherical body. All right. And as you see, it's broken down into colors just the same way the visual presentation was kicking to us, which means that we're dealing with a form of electromagnetic energy that I like to refer to also as so-called chakras. All right. And you see up top is the fire, the fire. All right, in the middle, we have the air. And in between the air and the water, we have the spirit, which is the ether. And if you can see it, it has a purplish color to it. All right. And below that, we have the flow of the water, which is that water. You got that water. And then beneath that, in the foundation, we have standing firm, fixed, and immovable, which is the earth. All right. And as you can see, these are the Hebrew letters put together that build the man. All right. You see the green at the base, the yellow connecting the base to the sacral point, which is, near the spirit or the ether, the source of the ether, which connects to the blue, which is of the air, going all the way up to the fire or the fire, which is that crown. All right. So you can see the ether man put into play right before your eyes through the Hebrew letters. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because they tap into this, but this is the esoteric version of it. They don't really like to speak on these things. They even refer to him as Adamant or something to that nature. But we're seeing it for what it is right here, right now. And I just want you to know that through the air, the ether is processed and turns into that fire. All right, up top, it turns into that fire. The fire, the flame, the burning, the shining is in the head. All right, it is in the head. So we're going to keep this in mind, and we're going to scoot on to the next one as we begin our breakdown for this lesson. Ahab.